This episode of C&C Talks podcast contains multiple heavy topics, including the shooting that recently occurred. Please be advised.
Hello everybody, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie.
Welcome to a special of the C&C Talks podcast. We were planning today on having a normal episode, but events that happened in Uvalde, Texas changed things when last Tuesday an 18-year-old went into Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with an AR-15 and killed 21 people, 19 students, and 2 teachers.
And unfortunately in the U.S., this happens way too often. Since the Uvalde attack last week, there have been either 11 or 12, I've heard different sources, at least 11 or 12 more mass shootings in just a 1 week.
There have been about 220 mass shootings already in 2022. That's an average of about 1.5 shootings a day. There have also been 27 school shootings this year. That's an average of more than one every single week.
It's just, why do we have to keep talking about this? Every single time that one of these things happens, you would think that finally something would change, but it hasn't.
It doesn't, and I'm struck by the fact that in every other country, this stuff does not happen because they have gun laws like assault weapons bans, and
it is a purely American issue.
It's harder to get a weapon just in general. You have to show that you're responsible with it, and yeah, this is an American issue, like Charlie said, and it's not looking like much is going to change this time either. So today we're going to do a deep dive into what happened. We're going to look at the victims. We're going to get some discussion on this. And let's start with what actually happened, Charlie.
So what we know as of now is that an 18-year-old had a text conversation with a friend of his in which he claims, and it was later found true, that he shot his grandma in the head.
Yeah.
And then 11 minutes later, broke into an unlocked door in the elementary school and barricaded himself in a class of children and killed them.
Yeah, and the shooter was inside there for over an hour, which the police response seemed to be pretty non-existent, which ultimately it's their job to do there. However, in fact, more kids this year have died because of shootings than police officers or military personnel combined.
That is terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, so the police just did not do their jobs. We have now also learned that they are not going to be cooperating with the state investigation, the Uvalde Police Department.
Why is that? Why do you think that could be?
Ultimately, their officers are in a way responsible, and they had the chance to potentially save some lives. And we do know that the shooter is dead. The shooter died.
Yes.
Shortly after by, I believe, it was Border Patrol that may have
yes,
killed.
I think that's
what I heard,
correct.
or ICE or something like that.
Yes.
Don't quote me on that one.
No.
But yeah, in there for a long time while he tased a mother after when parents were protesting, saying, "You got to go in there." They were getting 911 calls from students inside the school, and that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, and nothing was done.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the victims of this shooting. There were 21, like I said. Pardon me if I mispronounce some of these names. Maite Rodriguez. There's a young kid. Her mother on Facebook wrote this. What I would like the world to know about Maite Yolana Rodriguez is that her favorite color was green, and she loved those lime green Converse so much that she drew a heart on the right one. She was sweet, charismatic, loving, caring, loyal, free, ambitious, funny, silly, goal-driven, and best of all, my very best friend. Her dream to become a marine biologist started in kindergarten, and she had her heart set on Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi. She loved animals and babies so much, LOL. She was just picking up the camera and starting to enjoy photography. She had a very fun clothing style. As I lay here on this empty bed, and with tears running down my face at 3 a.m., I would like to say to my baby girl, it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you later, my sweet girl, I love you. McKenna Elrod. Her aunt described her as beautiful, funny, smart, and amazing. She had the biggest heart and loved her friends and family so much, her smile would light up a room. She also her aunt wrote on a GoFundMe, words cannot express the pain my sister and our family is going through. I know in the coming weeks, my sister is going to be overcome with so much, and any support is appreciated. Please pray for our family and remember McKenna. All of these details about the victims is coming courtesy of CBS News. Eliana Cruz Torres is a 10-year-old who was a softball player. Olivia Ramirez, 10 years old. Beto O'Rourke, the Democratic gubernatorial candidate, met with her family afterwards, and O'Rourke tweeted, Alethea was killed yesterday. Her parents welcomed me into their home today. Balloons from Alethea's 10th birthday were still up, as was her amazing art. They want the world to know what a beautiful, talented, happy girl she was. They never want this to happen to another kid.
And unfortunately, unless something happens, something like this is going to happen again.
It will, and
it is
like
just terrible that we have to continue to talk about this. And nothing's going to be changed. Nothing's going to happen from this.
And the same thing after Sandy Hook, after Parkland, Columbine, all of these various school shootings.
What's it going to take, is my question. It's going to take to finally get something through?
And it's not clear that there's an answer to that right now.
Yes.
Jose Flores was 10 years old. He was killed. His uncle wrote a tribute on Facebook saying, I'm going to miss you, baby Jose. I still can't believe this happened. My heart is broken just hearing them tell us you're gone. It hurts me. I love you so much, and I wish you were still here. I'm going to miss you so much. Rest in paradise, my beautiful angel. Tess Marie Mata. We don't know a whole ton of details, but her father saying, my sweet baby sister, I would never... her sister, not father. Her sister said, my sweet baby sister, I would have never thought I would be typing something like this. I honestly have no words, just sadness, confusion, and anger. I'm sad because we will never get to tag team on mom and dad again and tell each other how much we mean to each other. I'm confused because how can something like this happen to my sweet, caring, and beautiful sister? And I'm angry because a coward took you from us. Sissy, I miss you so much. I just want to hold you and tell you how pretty you are. I want to take you outside and practice softball. I want to go on one last family vacation. I want to hear your contagious laugh, and I want you to hear me tell you how much I love you. Tessie, Mom, Dad, and I won't be the same without you, but we are comforted knowing you are waiting for us up in heaven and have a spot for us. We have one sassy guardian angel that I know is going to protect our family. Till we meet again, Tess Marie. Love, your big sister. One of the teachers, Omar Garcia, was 48 years old, died protecting her students. 2 days later, her husband, Joe, died of a heart attack. Nivai Bravo is 10 years old. We don't know many details. We don't know many details about Miranda Mathis either, who also died in the attack. Jace Carmelo Levanos is 10 years old. Again, not many other details. Jackie Cazares, her father wrote on Facebook, taken out of arms and lives in this freaking cowardly way, so young, so innocent, full of life and love. It hurts us to our souls. We thank everyone from the bottom of our hearts for your love, support, and prayers. My baby girl will always be with us and those she has touched. May your passing not be in vain. Something will be done, I promise you. Be in peace with the rest of the angel's sweetheart. Daddy, mommy, sister, brother, and the whole family are going to miss you forever. Baby girl, we all love you with all our hearts. Rest in peace, my baby girl. Her cousin, Annabelle Rodriguez, also died in the shooting. I'll get to her in a minute. Hela Nicole Silguero is 10 years old. Alexandria Ania Rubio, also just 10 years old. She was recognized on the day of the shooting for All-A Honor Roll and a Good Citizen Award. Her mom said We told her we loved her and and would pick her up after school. We had no idea this was goodbye. Layla Salazar, also 10 years old, loved to swim and dance to videos on TikTok. She was an avid runner, won 6 races on the school's field day. Ellie Garcia, just 9 years old. She was, according to her aunt, happy and very outgoing. She loved to dance and play sports. She was big into family, enjoyed being with the family. Mary Jo Garza, just 10 years old. As her stepmother said, actually I think stepfather, she was the sweetest thing, so creative. Just got an award for being the most creative. Her father wrote, "My one and only baby, I'm going to miss you dearly, Mary. You did not deserve this, nor did the other children. I would do anything to have you back. Fly high, my Mary Jo, and tell Grandma we miss her. Visit me in my dreams sometime." Leo Torres, just 10 years old, not many details that we know. Xavier Lopez, also 10 years old. He had been looking forward to swimming over the summer. Annabelle Rodriguez, and the cousin of Jackie Cazares, a 3rd grader who died in this attack. Ozia Garcia, also 10 years old. Grandfather said, the sweetest little boy that I've ever known. And Eva Morales, finally the other teacher that died in the attack, died trying to protect students. It was, just such unbelievable and heartbreaking loss. And I think it's also important that we talk about the response from politicians to this, because It's been anything but good.
No, of course, the Democrats have the majority in the House, so they can push something through.
They've passed universal background checks.
And then in the Senate, which is the bigger issue, due to the filibuster, 60 votes are needed.
And nothing really looks like it's going to get passed. There seems to be compromise. And then you look in Texas, Senator Ted Cruz, just days afterwards, going to an NRA convention in Houston. We actually have a clip from that convention of, actually outside the convention, a protest that was taking place that was much bigger, of a young girl outside responding to some questions from right-wing media. Let's play that.
Hey, what, 5th grade, 6th grade?
I'm a freshman.
There you go. What's your thoughts on maybe adding additional security to schools? Like maybe it is, I don't know if you're a principal, if you have a security person at your school, would that make you feel safer at school?
No, it really doesn't. Like, the fact is, a lot of these schools who do have these incidents still have shootings, and students are still afraid to go to school. Like, this is a place where I'm supposed to learn. I should not have to feel like I could get shot at any moment. Like, I just want to be safe in my learning environment.
Do you have a security officer at your school that you're at right now?
We have an unarmed peace officer.
But do you think that statistically, if he was armed and someone was to come in your school, that he'd be able to take him out before he was to cause harm in your school?
No.
You don't think that a good guy with a gun would be able to stop a bad guy with a gun?
No. We just need no people with guns.
But it's going to be virtually impossible to do that, so we've got to come up with a different solution. Do you expect people with guns to turn in their guns?
I think if you need guns, there just needs to be more background checking. I don't think someone needs military grade weapons. People should not have semi-automatic guns.
So you want to clean up the type of gun that's on the street and then make it harder to get one?
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks for your time.
So, shall we welcome our guest for tonight?
Yeah, so we have a guest to talk about what needs to be done going forward, and just hear his reaction. His name's Scott. He's a 9th grade teacher at the Northwest School. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Colin. Hi, Charlie.
Hello.
I'm so honored and pleased to have this opportunity to join you on this podcast, which I'm very excited about. I'm not excited about the topic today, of course, but I'm definitely inspired, and I feel a certain degree of reaffirmation of my belief in the young people in the country when I listen to the podcasts. Thank you for having me here.
All right, thanks for joining us. Let's just kind of get your reaction to what happened and the fact that there's just so many shootings, especially in schools all around the country.
Yeah, it's it's a topic that is so emotional and close to home for those of us who've committed our professional lives to education, that it's hard to even know where to start to a question like that. Like, how can you respond to the unimaginable? And so I think if you talk to a lot of teachers, there is, especially in the first weeks after these events, a degree of inability to really even know how to start the conversation. I know that I find myself in this position where I feel the need to have these events addressed in the classroom, but I'm not always prepared emotionally to confront them myself. So there's this tension between what I think is necessary as an educator and what I'm maybe emotionally prepared to do. And I think the two of you have seen that now on a couple occasions in the class when something has happened in the world that I have my own personal emotional response to, and I hope to at least bring the topic to the classroom, even if it's only a brief mention.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really answered your question, but I think that's where I am now with this topic as well, is my thoughts are all over the place still, and emotionally I still feel really sort of shaken.
Yeah, and I feel like, at least for me personally, at the school I go to, I feel safe, but still, like, what if it was to happen? Like, and I know that at many other schools all around the country, there's to feel a lot less safe, and school's supposed to be a place where you can learn, just feel safe, and that's just
yeah, we know that
not.
One of the things that gets in the way of learning is if somebody is scared, doesn't feel safe, that our minds aren't as plastic in that state, and so we always do everything we can to guarantee that when a student comes into the building, they can feel physically safe and emotionally safe as well. And when these events happen, this can interrupt that or disrupt that. And you're right, Colin. I think here, I don't know how you feel, Charlie, how safe you feel at this building, despite the fact that we are centrally located in Seattle. I've always felt a tremendous amount of security in this community. I think something that you mentioned earlier, Colin, about the close-knit nature of our community, and the fact that we do know each other, and we have a lot of support for people if they're feeling emotionally unstable.
Yeah, mental health resources.
Yeah, but what if you have to confront that question? What would you do if it happened here? I expect that it would have to be somebody not from our own community, because I want to believe that nobody who knows us would ever do something of this sort. And I just dread the fact that we have to do these lockdown drills in preparation for that potential, to ask you to
Go hide.
Go hide, literally. We will lock the doors, we'll close the shades, we'll turn off our cell phones or leave one or two cell phones on. I don't know. I mean, how does it feel being a young person growing up in a country where this is a part of your experience in school?
Yeah. Charlie, do you have thoughts on that one?
Yeah. It's... As you two have both stated, this community, I feel anyway, is pretty safe. But actually, we, at the old elementary school I went to, we actually did have a shooter threat at one point. And I could say that is a very scary experience. It is something that I don't want anyone to have to deal with. But unfortunately, these school shootings and these mass shootings are, in my opinion, just a strictly American issue. These don't happen anywhere else. And the issue is, every single time one of these happens, there's a big initial reaction. There's an attempt to get it done to fix and prevent these from happening, and it just never does. So the question I have to ask is, what is it going to take? What has to happen, and how many people have to die before something is changed?
Yeah, and really, even now, we're still just hearing all these thoughts and prayers, and honestly, you gotta kind of be tired of thoughts and prayers. Take action, and really, it's gun laws, stricter gun laws in other countries. It's the problem, whereas Republican politicians right now, I actually have a list here, courtesy of Luke Zaleski. I don't know who that is, but somebody on Twitter has made a list of all of the things the Republicans have tried blaming for the shooting, including the FBI, critical race theory, which isn't a thing, woke mobs, doors that lock, doors that don't lock, which completely contradict each other, too many doors, lockdown.
Wait, how does that one make any sense? What do they mean?
It doesn't. Lockdowns, cops, not enough cops, video games, teachers, aid to Ukraine, and porn, just to name a few. And you have to also understand the two different realities in America. Like,
Yeah.
Fox News is, like, they're barely even covering it anymore and saying that, right, it's the Democrats' fault, or else we need to arm teachers, and that's just not a practical solution. And like what would you think if someone told you to be armed?
Right. I shudder often at these suggestions, and I am always trying to determine sometimes which of these proposals is offered in good faith and which of them is intended to be a red herring that sort of leads people away from confronting the actual cause of this problem, which is the number of guns in the country. And of course, it has to be a multi-pronged approach, and it's a multi-year effort, generational, multi-generations probably, to undo all of these factors that brought us to the point we're at now. I think we know that at the base level, we've got to address the interpretation of the Second Amendment that we got through Heller and other Supreme Court decisions. And I always have this fantasy of some movement to amend the Constitution, but we recognize, because of the partisan nature of gun ownership in this country and the divide that we have, that seems unlikely. It's extremely difficult, of course, to amend the U.S. Constitution, and so other than a different reading of that amendment at the Supreme Court, I don't know that will work. The model we have from other countries, of course, is something I often look to, and it feels to some people un-American to borrow from Europe or even Canada, because we have to do things in our way. But I don't know. I think that we have to find a way to commit and recommit to this effort. And I see the two of you as allies going forward, and other young people who are just fed up with it. And I want to work with you.
I will also point out on that last point, the March for Our Lives, which was, of course, a big thing back after the Parkland shooting. Mm-hmm. Back in, I believe, 2018, it has announced that they are holding another march in D.C. as well as many others all around the country on June 11th. So make sure to look for more info on that at marchforourlives.com. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks again.
Yeah. And if I may, just to give some personal thoughts on this issue, there's so many simple solutions that we have. We can universal background checks, which is just common sense, and 90% of Americans support it. It wouldn't solve everything, but it would make it harder for people who shouldn't be getting guns to get guns. And let's also remember, this Uvalde shooter obtained the weapon legally. In fact, he waited till his 18th birthday to buy the weapon. That shows that the laws work. So why can't we raise the age on buying a weapon, or just get an assault weapons ban? Obviously, then you need to have like mandatory buybacks of assault weapons, and all of the, if it's just to save even a few lives, it's worth it. But this would be to save a lot more than just a few lives. This would save thousands of lives, potentially every year.
Yes. I wanted to give a couple of my personal thoughts on this and also the interview we had with Scott. There was a brief discussion of the Second Amendment, and I also wanted to point out that when that amendment was drafted, the guns at the time were muskets, not very rapidly firing assault rifles and modern technology. And it's interesting to see that comparison between that, because there's been so much technological development that that meaning is kind of warped.
And not just on guns, but on a whole variety of issues as well.
Including our government.
Yeah. And it's just...
And the other thing that I've heard from Republican politicians, a few of them, have stated, I think Ted Cruz also said this, that the issue with what happened in Uvalde and other school shootings is that as soon as one of these things that, according to them, are natural happen, the Democrats try to push forward their own agenda. They're not trying to push forward their own agenda, they're trying to save lives of American citizens.
Yeah, and when you look at the Republican Party, they are getting a whole ton of money from the NRA.
Ted Cruz went to that NRA meeting,
yeah, exactly.
as you stated.
And like Donald Trump spoke at that meeting also. His speech involved saying the names of the victims while a bell rang, and followed by doing his weird awkward dance while he walked off stage. And it's not appropriate. People are mourning. This is a real tragedy, and it's a tragedy that's just preventable if people had the backbone to stand up to it.
Yes.
And so, on that note, before we go, I'd like to play some comments by Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy that he gave Tuesday afternoon on the floor of the Senate. Chris Murphy was just elected to the Senate right around the same time as Sandy Hook happened. He has been one of the biggest proponents of gun control. Let's play that.
14 kids dead in an elementary school in Texas right now. What are we doing? What are we doing? Just days after a shooter walked into a grocery store to gun down African American patrons, we have another Sandy Hook on our hands. What are we doing? There have been more mass shootings than days in the year. Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in a classroom because they think they're going to be next. What are we doing? Why do you spend all this time running for the United States Senate? Why do you go through all the hassle of getting this job, of putting yourself in a position of authority, if your answer is that as this slaughter increases, as our kids run for their lives, we do nothing? What are we doing? Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this. This isn't inevitable. These kids weren't unlucky. This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day. Nowhere else do parents have to talk to their kids, as I have had to do, about why they got locked into a bathroom and told to be quiet for 5 minutes just in case a bad man entered that building. Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice. It is our choice to let it continue. What are we doing? In Sandy Hook Elementary School, after those kids came back into those classrooms, they had to adopt a practice in which there would be a safe word that the kids would say if they started to get thoughts in their brain about what they saw that day. If they started to get nightmares during the day, reliving stepping over their classmates' bodies as they tried to flee the school. In one classroom, that word was monkey. And over and over and over through the day, kids would stand up and yell, monkey. And a teacher or a paraprofessional would have to go over to that kid, take them out of the classroom, talk to them about what they had seen, work them through their issues. Sandy Hook will never, ever be the same. This community in Texas will never, ever be the same. Why? Why are we here? If not to try to make sure that fewer schools and fewer communities go through what Sandy Hook has gone through, what Uvalde is going through. Our heart is breaking for these families. Every ounce of love and thoughts and prayers we can send, we are sending. But I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely. I understand my Republican colleagues will not agree to everything that I may support, but there is a common denominator that we can find. There is a place where we can achieve agreement that may not guarantee that America never, ever again sees a mass shooting, that may not overnight cut in half the number of murders that happen in America. It will not solve the problem of American violence by itself, but by doing something, we at least stop sending this quiet message of endorsement to these killers whose brains are breaking, who see the highest levels of government doing nothing, shooting after shooting. What are we doing? Why are we here?
All right, well, that was Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy. Thanks so much for joining us for this special episode, everybody. We have a full, normal episode coming on Friday, even though nothing going on in the world right now is normal. Also, tomorrow afternoon, we have an episode of bloopers coming out, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that. Yeah, and that is exclusively on YouTube, I'm being told, the bloopers episode. Thank you again so much for joining us. For Morris, Scott, our entire team, Zack, Drake, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie. There are a lot of bloopers, by the way.
And see you guys soon.